Good evening. Welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee. This is meeting number 31. Today is May 9th, 2022. Pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, meetings conducted by hybrid means will be conducted in person and via remote access in accordance with applicable law. This means that members of the public body may access these meetings in person or via remote means using the link posted. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by accessing the meeting by in-person attendance. Additionally, meetings are broadcast in real time via Westborough TV, Verizon Channel 28 or Charter Channel 192, or on YouTube/Westborough TV. We have several guests tonight, Christy Williams, Town Manager, Jim Robbins, Director of Planning, Amber Bach, Superintendent of Schools, and Ian Johnson, Chair of the Select Board. Christy, would you like to start? We're going to hold the approval of minutes, folks, until after all of the work this evening. So first item on the agenda is the Mass Works Infrastructure Program, Otis Street.
Right. So both of the items that are on your agenda, we're seeking a recommendation from the Advisory Finance Committee to fund these two items through use of ARPA funds. And we're actually asking for that to happen this evening if possible, given I think all of you are familiar with the state of the Armstrong school roof at this point. And then also Jim's going to talk a little bit more about the MassWorks project and why the timeliness of that is important. But just so you're all aware, we have a deadline of June 3rd, I believe, to submit our application for our MassWorks project. And we've been advised that the state would be seeking matching funds, understanding that communities have all received ARPA funding, and hoping that if communities are seeing these projects as a priority, they're willing to allocate some of their own ARPA funds to that project. But I just wanted to set the stage before we get into sort of the details of the MassWorks grant, or Amber speaks to you more about the Armstrong School. Obviously, ARPA is something we've been talking about for a very long time. And we've heard a lot of at town meeting about people's interest in using ARPA funds for projects as they came forward. And so tomorrow night, I intend to preview the recommended ARPA projects with the select board. But I think just briefly, in just preparing you for the conversation this evening, I just wanted to go quickly through some of the recommended ARPA projects, which of course we'll have a lot more discussion at future meetings. And so this is the spreadsheet that has all of the ARPA projects that were proposed. The ones that are highlighted in green are ones that the finance team, which consists of folks on the town side, finance folks on the town side, as well as the school side, and then also the chairs of the school committee, select board chair, and then also the chair of your committee, the Advisory Finance Committee, sit on that group. And so I just wanted to show you here that what we've tried to do is recommend projects that really cross different departments. As you all remember, we asked for proposals last August. And so we've really been working through those proposals, seeking additional information, and then working with Clifton Larson Allen, who we did hire to help us with this process. So the first recommendation is the $25,000 in field inspections for the assessor. Moving down into the Downtown Revitalization, or LRRP, that's the Local Rapid Recovery Program, which we did receive a grant that identified 10 goals for the downtown. And so these are several projects that would assist in achieving those goals. And so there's $90,000 here that we're recommending for a wayfinding system, and then $65,000 for direct assistance to businesses. Just as we look at that sort of grouping of projects, I would just note that in a bill that was filed by the governor, there is almost $400,000 for Westborough specifically for downtown revitalization. So those might be projects that we would pull out of our own ARPA funding and actually use state ARPA funding if that bill does pass. Going down that $132,540, that's the money that we've allocated for Clifton Larson Allen. So that has actually already been recommended and approved for use of ARPA funding. As we look at the fire department, there's several requests here. The first was the 4 additional firefighters. As you're aware, the select board did support the chief's application for a SAFER grant, and so we are not recommending that at this point due to the SAFER grant application. And then there's some other projects in here, but one that's being recommended is really for police and fire, and that's for the radio infrastructure, so that's for the towers. And then also there's $35,000 here for a fire department equipment washer, which we're recommending. And it's actually not highlighted, so I apologize, but that $5,500 is also for a washer dryer for the station. And actually those last two, the $35,000 and the $5,500 are also in a separate bill filed by the state for use of ARPA funding, and so hopefully will be funded by state ARPA funds rather than our own. The library submitted these 2 projects, but neither one were recommended by the finance team. So one was for the bookmobile, and the second would be just money towards the library renovation. When we look at the police request, they submitted the 1 request, which we've heard about many times, and that's for the 3 additional officers, and that also includes the purchase of a cruiser, which they would need with the 3 additional staff members. Moving down to DPW, these 3 water projects you all saw on the annual town meeting warrant. The $215,000 is to the right because that was actually funded at annual town meeting using retained earnings, and so the finance team thought that we would move forward with the use of the retained earnings, but we're recommending that we use ARPA funds for the $810,000 project. The recreation department put forward an ARPA project for the splash pad. This is something that has been in the capital plan in the past, though hasn't been recently. It's something that we've looked at many times to potentially locate in the Bay State Common near the Tot Lot. It's something that we actually see as even more important as we move forward because we are having a very difficult time finding lifeguards to staff Chauncey Beach, which is going to affect our operations in the summer. That's actually something that we're seeing across the state, and we actually identify that as being a result of COVID because folks who typically would have taken the certifications were unable to during COVID, and so we're seeing a shortage in certified lifeguards. And then for the school department, we have the 3 projects here. One is the HVAC for Hastings. That was approved for a borrow at town meeting. The 2 numbers reflect the 1.8 is the amount that we, at the time, were thinking that we would need for that project. And if you remember, we allocated some already borrowed funds, so it actually reduced that number to that 1.3. But that's not currently being recommended. In lieu of that, we're recommending the Armstrong roof replacement be funded through ARPA, and that 1.263 is actually the actual bid that was open on Friday. And then also the high school chillers, again, that was funded, that was approved for a borrow at town meeting, but we're recommending that we use ARPA funds to pay for that. Moving down to youth and family services, they've requested 3 projects. We're recommending the funding of 1. That's for an outreach worker. So that's actually, it says full-time, but it would be a contract service is what we're recommending. So that $226,000 to deal with the mental health outcomes of COVID. And then the final one is that $250,000 for matching the MassWorks grant. Jim will talk more about that, but we're applying to the state for about $5.5 to $6 million. So $250,000 is actually a really small amount. When we look at the Otis Street corridor and the work that we're anticipating doing, the safety concerns that we expect to answer. So our total requests were just over $12 million, but we were only awarded that 5.722. We do have some interest because we have received some of that funding. So we were short about $6.3 million in ARPA funding. We continue to watch the state and sort of how that money is all playing out, as well as the federal government, to see what other projects we can get funded. But at this point, we're interested in moving forward with some of these ARPA awards. We have to obligate the money by the end of 2024, and it has to be fully spent by 2026. And so given sort of the issues with construction and materials, we certainly want to get started. And so the recommended awards are that 5.4 number, which leaves us about $263,000 remaining, understanding that a couple of those things are already in bills that might be funded through state ARPA funds. So that's sort of where we're at. That's a really quick overview of where we're at. But I think it just sort of sets you up for the sort of span of where we intend to put ARPA funds. So I'll let Jim, unless you have questions, I'll let Jim move to MassWorks.
Just a quick, sorry, Chair, but the sound is somewhat distorted coming through to us, so I don't know if we could play with the microphone location or something, but it's kind of really fuzzy.
Tweaking it now.
Say again?
He's tweaking it now.
He's tweaking it now.
Any updates on the chat, I can work on it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Andrew, you have a question?
I do, thank you. If I missed this in part of the early description when it was a little fuzzier than now for the conversation or for the clarity of the sound, ARPA has always been sort of this amorphous group of money that I know we hired people to try and tell us how it could be used and applied appropriately. Where you walk through the details here, you're walking through with a confidence that I'm really delighted to see. Are we saying that we're comfortable that this is going to be approved as ARPA funding, or is there still some ambiguity or some question as to how we can apply that money?
All of the projects that we're recommending have been vetted through our consultant, and so they feel that they're eligible uses of the ARPA money. But again, tonight we would only be asking for those 2 projects at this point.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
He does.
I have
Sorry,
I have one
go ahead.
question that
Yeah.
so this is the sum and total of all the funds. Would we plan on moving ahead of these at one time we were talking about some of these spread out over a couple of years. So just kind of wondering what the thoughts are on timing.
Yeah, so we had talked about potentially not using all the ARPA funds, understanding that we weren't really sure what was happening with COVID. But there is, I think, some urgency around making sure that we're using these funds. My understanding is that at the federal level, they've looked at states who haven't totally appropriated their funds, and they're talking about, what point would be the right point to take money back. So I think we're comfortable with what we're recommending here, understanding that there's some room here for contingency.
Okay. Let's move on to the MassWorks project. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you for having me. I'm Jim Robbins, town planner. I'm just going to plug it in here. Just a little bit of background. So as part of the Amazon project, the first Amazon project at 50 Otis Street, which is the Amazon Robotics project, one of the conditions of approval was that the developer, which is Atlantic Management, would provide a corridor study for the entire Otis Street corridor, including the intersection of 9 with Otis Street. And so we got Mass DOT involved with that study, and we conducted what we call a road safety audit, which I'm going to show you a little bit about. The project actually began in January of 21. So it's a little over a year old. This presentation I'm going to show you was shown in February of this year to all of the property owners along Otis Street, as well as elected officials and Mass DOT, so that we could let people who are most likely affected, the property owners and the tenants of their buildings, know what the plan is going forward. So an overview was given at that hearing. with the stakeholders. We explained the objectives of the plan, the features of the study. We talked about the property owners and what the requirements for access would be for them. Then we talked about funding sources and landowner requirements and benefits. What that basically means is landowners would have to give easements to the town to conduct the work, such as intersection improvements, driveway modifications, sidewalks, crosswalks, and signalization. As I said, we began this project in 2019 as part of the 50 Otis Street Amazon Robotics project, and in January of 21, we conducted with Mass DOT the road safety audit at the intersection of 9 and Otis Street. Out of that came recommendations for improvements to that intersection, which we all know is a headache. It's one of the top 5 most difficult intersections in the entire Commonwealth as far as crashes are concerned and areas of conflict. In September of 21, the final quarter study was submitted to the town for town departments and committees to review. That was then presented to the stakeholders, who are the property owners along the corridor. And I mentioned that earlier. In February of 22, we held the meeting with the corridor and stakeholders. Also, we began discussing a MassWorks grant to fund the entirety of the improvements, so there would be no town money, no taxpayer money involved in the improvements. In June of this year, we will file the application. We're in the final stages of that now. Grant award nominations are announced in the fall of this year, fall of 22. So the process, I've already explained it to you. I won't belabor the point on this flow chart, just merely to say that Mass DOT was involved in that road safety audit early on with the traffic consultants that were representing the town and the private developer that was paying for the study. So the overall goal was to define a set of measures and initiatives, associated costs, and prioritization for improving traffic flow, safety, multimodal traffic options along the Otis Street corridor that will guide investment to accommodate future growth along that corridor. So here you actually see 13 intersections that were looked at, and the intersections could be defined as a driveway as it exits onto Otis Street, or as large as the intersection of 9 and Otis Street, which you see is a green-red circle on the left side of the page, which is the northernmost point along the Otis Street corridor. We also looked at traffic improvements all the way down to Smith Parkway and to the MBTA station, bike trail connections for the Boston to Worcester Airline Trail, which we call the B-Walt locally, and connections for a trail through the Hockomock Pond property that would lead to the MBTA commuter rail station. This shows bike trails and commuter rail trails. As you see, the T is highlighted there in purple. Sidewalks are highlighted in green. This shows sidewalks that are complete and sidewalks that are incomplete. The dotted line is those that are complete. The solid lines are those that are incomplete. This shows the corridor itself regionally across the town. The green circle encompasses Otis Street. You can see where Route 9 intersects that at the top of the page, the north end of Otis Street, just before entering into Northborough. The MBTA train station is highlighted at the bottom of the page. This is the intersection of 9 and Otis Street, and DOT considers this a failed intersection. The proposal is to create additional dedicated right-hand turn lanes at all 4 intersections of the route. So you can see, if you look closely, a Delta Island, a new Delta Island at the north side of that intersection. So there would be a dedicated right-hand turn if you were coming from the Walmart on the Northborough side. You could make a right-hand turn that is separated from the regular flow of traffic. We already have a dedicated right-hand turn on the eastbound side coming from the south part of Otis Street, coming from the Amazon property. We would create a similar dedicated right-hand turn additionally on Otis Street coming from the west to turn onto Otis Street south. And then lastly, if you were turning from Route 9 east towards Northborough or Walmart on the north side of Otis Street. Safety improvements are considered in this project. The RSA stands for Road Safety Audit Recommendations, signage, marking, geometry at that intersection with Route 9, including pedestrian features for crossings. So if you were coming from Walmart or you lived at Arrive on the north side of Route 9, you could make a pedestrian crossing. DOT is now encouraging that. There would be pedestrian signalization to allow that crossing. As you know, we have that type of crossing currently at the real line intersection of 9 and Lyman Street, which was done a couple of years ago. So we would also have connections for the bike trail, the Bewalt Trail on the west side of Otis Street, and also for Route 9 crossing. There would be sidewalks the full length on both sides of Otis Street, the east side and the west side. The prominent intersection and driveways would be improved with crossing lights and crosswalks. Additionally, there'd be additional lanes, as I talked about earlier. I will try to move quickly through this presentation. We actually had a video presentation, which I won't show, which was in there originally. So we're now at the 9 and Route 9 intersection. You can see highlighted there in green an additional lane, additional travel lane headed west along Route 9 and to make a right-hand turn north along Otis Street towards Walmart. This is the sidewalk improvement proposed to come down from the Walmart area to the intersection with a crosswalk with a new Delta Island to lead to the south side along by where the Moe's Mexican Grill is in the Verizon store. This is the sidewalk on the opposite side of the street in front of the Moe's Mexican Grill. Now here you're approaching the Target driveway. This grant would provide a new signalized intersection at the Target driveway. Right now you know that it's very difficult to get out at rush hour, whether it's the morning, the lunchtime, or the evening. So we propose a signalized intersection at Target driveway. We're reaching out to Target now, but this proposal would include new sidewalk down to the Target driveway. This is the new Target driveway itself with new sidewalk highlighted in green, signalized intersection in the circle with red and green. Then there would be a continued sidewalk to the new driveway for the new Amazon project that is being built now at 64 Otis Street, the former Barbarian Farm. There'll be a project driveway there, which I will show you on the next slide, to align with the Speedway Plaza driveway. We would move the Speedway Plaza driveway to the south along Otis Street to create a new signalized intersection at 64 Otis Street with that Amazon project. That will reduce the queues down at the Otis and Route 9 intersection. Sidewalk then beyond that, again heading south along Otis Street. Further along Otis Street, this is in front of the new Amazon Robotics plant. Directly in front of Amazon Robotics, and this will be built by Atlantic Management. Then past Amazon Robotics, leading down to where the town's property is at Hockomock Pond, a new intersection to connect with the existing sidewalk that's there now. You see the dotted line, which is a proposed trail through the Hockomock Pond property coming out across from the MBTA station. This green area shows a new sidewalk to connect along the driveway that is currently there where it's fenced off to enter into the Hockomock Pond property and then to the intersection with Smith Parkway. Now we're on the opposite side. I'll just move through this quickly. The green area is a new sidewalk on the north side of Otis Street from the Route 9 intersection. You see the new intersection signalized with the Target driveway. New sidewalk connecting then down to a new signalized intersection with the Speedway Plaza driveway and the Amazon project. Continuing down Otis Street across from the Amazon Robotics, a new sidewalk. And then between the Amazon Robotics, heading down to Hockomock Pond, right in front of Amazon. Now down near Hockomock Pond, you see the dotted line on the north side, on the east side of Otis Street. That's where the Bewalt bicycle trail comes in. So it would have a trail crossing with a proposed crosswalk and a signalized intersection to get across to the other side of Otis Street to lead to the train station. This is coming down to Smith Parkway, the final portion of the sidewalk crossing across from Smith Parkway where Columbia Tech is. Right now, the project is at 25% design. That's what we need as far as development of the design to apply for the MassWorks grant. It requires cross easements with multiple landowners. That's why we held the stakeholders meeting. We had a very good attendance, a lot of questions. We've had follow-up discussions with several of the property owners. Today I was speaking with the owners of 66 Otis Street, which is going to be the new home of the brewery, which is Cold Harbor Brewing, which will be built right next to the Amazon project. So we've already begun negotiating the easements to make the sidewalk possible. It's a long-term project. It's intended to address capacity issues that we have along Otis Street with the improvements to the Route 9 intersection, the widening of Otis Street and new sidewalks, and improving safety for those that wish to cross Otis Street during the day. As you know, Columbia Tech has properties on both sides of Otis Street, and their workers cross multiple times during the day. I see them anytime I'm on Otis Street, crossing Otis Street. So this will give them multiple opportunities instead of having to walk all the way down to the Smith Parkway intersection to cross with the signal. So safety, better access from both north and south along Otis Street, and signalized intersections to improve traffic for people wishing to make left-hand turns along Otis Street. All of this paid for by the grant. The expected ceiling to the grant is $6 million. The requested contribution from the town for the ARPA monies is $250,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
I went through that quickly.
Any questions?
So
Andrew, go
Andrew here.
ahead.
I'm sorry, I did have a very quick question. It does seem like a lot of the conversation on Otis Street looked at the flow of traffic as it goes towards Route 9, and I really get that's a major difficult intersection. I'm wondering, and I didn't see it listed here or as part of the presentation, about traffic that goes the other way down Fisher, which is also stepping up. I know that there's that speed sign there. He says putting in a plug for a multi-year project he was responsible for a long time ago, but that's not the important part. But that's no longer working. I just want to make sure that we're considering the entire flow of all the traffic coming out of that area going both directions, even though really the majority I know is towards Fisher. So can you speak about, toward Route 9. Can you speak of any thoughts or findings about what goes down towards Fisher?
Sure, that's a great question, Andrew. So the Atlantic Management Company that built the Amazon Robotics was required as part of their permit to conduct a traffic study and a truck exclusion study along Fisher Street post-occupancy. They conducted the first of those studies. They will conduct another study to show the increase in traffic 18 months from the date of occupancy. So they're about 3 to 4 to 5 months into their occupancy. There will be another study conducted to see what the actual full occupancy is, because by that time, the next Amazon project will also be operational. So it's important to not conduct the studies and make recommendations for that now, because you're not going to experience the full flow of traffic until those facilities are occupied. And we've also presented this to the Active Transportation Safety Committee, who has a great concern for truck traffic on Fisher Street. Some of that is associated with construction. The Planning Board has prohibited any hauling of materials or construction equipment on Fisher Street. The truck traffic is to come from Route 9 to Otis Street to the site and not to come onto Fisher. But we've through the aid of residents on Fisher, have gotten photos and videos of truck traffic hauling over those streets. We've been able to identify the haulers, and we've spoken to those that we know are bringing fill to materials sites outside of the Fisher Street area, not associated with Amazon. Fortunately, Amazon's contractors have obeyed our hauling routes and hours of operation, so they're not the offenders. It's other projects, but we're working with them. So I don't have a final answer for you now, but in 18 months when there's full occupancy, we'll have another study.
I appreciate that. It's good to know that that's still in the scope of what we're looking at for the traffic there. So thank you.
Anybody else? Paul?
Yep. This might be this is more of a general question, maybe, or maybe not appropriate for here, but with all the lights I saw, I think there's 2 or 3 proposed or possible traffic signals. What's so those, the ones that we've added in town since I've lived here, they all run 24 or 18 hours a day, even though many of them have no traffic, no significant traffic that requires that other than several hours a day. Would these all be running 24 hours a day, and obviously would they be timed and all, what kind of consideration would you expect?
Sure, that's a great question, Paul. So we asked that same question, whether the traffic signals were to remain live in the evening, or would they go to flashing yellow and flashing red? And the Department of the Transportation, DOT, determines how those signals behave. And they will look at the traffic patterns once those signals are operational for a period of time. It's generally 6 months. I don't know how they will start in the evening, if they will start at full mode, or if, for example, they will give preference to traffic on Otis Street and the driveways will receive a longer red, and then maybe for only a brief period of time have a green, because as you know, those shopping centers are closed in the evening, those offices are closed in the evening, so there would be no real need to allow turns out of those sites. But the property owners, that's why they were involved in this in the beginning. They all saw those proposals for the traffic lights and will provide input along the way to DOT.
Okay, thank you.
Walter?
Yes, thanks. Very interesting proposal. My question is on that first property, I think Verizon and there's another food restaurant in there at the corner, down right at Route 9. That seems like a real tricky exit out of there because you're kind of driving into backed up traffic. Is this include some scheme where those guys get to the traffic lighted signal?
Yes, and we looked at that immediately. We are working with Target to get an easement for those properties. So the property where Moe's Mexican Grill is and Verizon would connect to the property where the gym is, and that property would connect to Target's driveway, which would allow traffic to make a right out of that driveway and then go to the Target intersection and cross at a signalized intersection safely. But obviously, Target is a key player in this whole thing. We're going to need to be working very closely with them. This is not a plan that's going to occur within a year or even a year and a half. This is going to take multiple years to get everything in place because the easements have to be acquired. Driveways internal to each site need to be acquired. We're working with 66 Otis Street, which again is the brewery Cold Harbor, to connect their driveway to their abutter at Amazon so that traffic can flow back and forth between those sites. And so traffic from the brewery could go onto the driveway at Amazon, which would go to the signalized intersection with Speedway Plaza. So we're trying to get traffic off of Otis Street. We're trying to reduce that flow and bring it all to a signalized intersection.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Jim, is there a projected start date for this project?
Not at this point.
Okay.
When the design gets to 100%, we'll need to build it. We'll need to bid the project. But prior to that, during the MassWorks application, we have a consultant on board, the traffic consultant, and he will propose a project timeline based on their experience, not only with the MassWorks program, but with the construction of this type of sophisticated project. I would expect the horizon is between 3 to 5 years till completion.
Wow. Did I hear you say that that intersection is in the top 10 of?
It's actually probably in the top 5.
Top
We've been
5?
told it's in the top 5
Wow. Okay.
for crash data.
And lights falling.
I'm sorry?
And lights falling. Signal
Yes.
lights falling. Yeah. Anybody else? Jim, thank you very much.
Just one last question, and
sorry, Walter.
The timeframe will work with the ARPA money, like we will have spent our money by the 2026 that we have to, or something.
I can't answer that. How the ARPA money is spent.
Yeah. Christy?
Yeah, it's such a small piece of that project. The MassWorks grant would be awarded in the fall of '22, and we have 2 years to spend it. So,
Oh, okay.
yep.
Or get an extension.
Right.
Anything else, folks? Okay, if you all don't mind, I will make a recommendation or motion with respect to this request. And I move that the Advisory Finance Committee recommend the expenditure of $250,000 from ARPA funds as the town of Westborough's contribution to the Otis Street Corridor project. Is there a second?
Bradley, second.
Okay. Let's go down the vote. Beth?
Blumberg, yes.
Melanie?
Yes.
Tom?
Brad,
No, Bradley,
Bradley, yes.
Sorry, Andrew.
sorry. Bradley, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Eagle, yes.
Leslie, yes.
Moretti, yes. So it's 8-0-0. That was easy.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Moving on to the next project, or the next item on the agenda. It's the replacement of the Armstrong School roof. I hope you've all had an opportunity to look at the school committee meeting from April 13th and the select board meeting from April 26th. So, Amber?
Thank you very much. So I'm not sure, Michael, do you want me to do a presentation? You want to work from questions? Otherwise, I will assume you have a really diligent board that they've looked at both of those and have a sense of the project, and I could take questions and answer things and update you on the bid. What's your preference?
Well, the bid came in on Friday and was open, and what is the winning bid?
It was the number that Christie put up. It's
1.263 million?
Yep, exactly. And that
Okay.
is a bid in hand for Greenwood Industries, a very reputable, strong roofing company who has affirmed that they can meet the timeline that we need, and will start ordering materials as soon as we access a final vote on funds.
Okay. All right, does anybody have any questions for Amber? Paul?
Okay, so does that mean, I think that means that we can, we're kind of making the assumption that we're not gonna do the 50,000 because the timing will work, that we don't need to do that as a stopgap, even if we believe in the full amount. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay. So you can do it in the summer, or?
Yeah, the timeline is actually to put the roof on this summer, so they have kind of, being a large company, access to quite a few of the materials they need, then they would do the specified order and would be moving as quickly as possible for a summer installation.
Okay, great, thank you.
Beth?
Hi, I just want to make sure I understand. If we approve this use of ARPA funds, we don't have to go to a special town meeting. We can go straight to through the select board, and then the job is approved?
That's
Correct.
correct. Yep.
Awesome.
Okay. Walter?
Yeah, just to clarify, Amber, I did watch the presentations, but this is essentially the white part of the roof. It's not the entire roof of the whole building. It's the part that was all the same age and getting replaced.
Correct,
Is that correct?
correct.
So, and we have thoughts on when we will get to the other stuff? Is that goes back into the capital plan for future years or something?
Yeah, the capital plan will reassess the rotation of all of the roofs and adjust timelines. The additional roof left there can go several years longer, which is why we had hoped to be out past 25 on that large, dark section of roofing. The one that will be up for discussion and where that would fall in the capital plan would be the barrel roof of the gymnasium, which was called out for, as soon as possible around FY 23. We'll probably get a cost update on that and work with the capital committee on it.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Andrew?
And I'm not sure if this is an Amber question or if there's another procedural, it might be Steve Durrett. Is this a project that will be moving into the school building committee oversight?
No, it's an emergency procurement, so the process would be actually managed by there's a subcontractor who serves as the manager. I'm going to totally blank on his name now. Garland Roofing, who would oversee project management, And he's the one who did the roof assessment, so he would help to implement the installation process and basically oversee Greenwood Industries. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Christy, can either you or Ian just reaffirm that if we take this expenditure from ARPA funds, that the borrowing that was recommended for the Hastings project would be rescinded? All right, how is that going to work? I know we had that discussion at the finance team meeting, but there was a lot going on, so I'd like to make sure. Can you?
So
Okay, that's good. Thank
the status of the approval for the Hastings roof would be basically recognizing that we're rotating the Armstrong roof in as the emergency, that we would hold on any actionable items with Hastings, one, until we have a large coordination meeting on all the project pieces, and then would actually bring that back to the finance subcommittee for any further planning or discussion. But anything that would happen with regard to that would need to come back to one of the town meetings if we were to do any change to the language of the use of that fund. But for now, our plan is to hold on Hastings until we do a complete project assessment of where we are. So I would imagine for now, I mean, again, we have a voted article, it's going to sit. We are not going to take actionable item to pull or to draw funding on that until we get an opportunity to kind of do a complete project assessment.
Okay.
So, again, I think that process, we have a meeting scheduled in the next 2 weeks to pull together kind of all the players around the work that's been done thus far on Hastings. And I think we would be putting together basically a report to give everybody an update on expenditures and where we are in timelines there. But it's not ready to go out to bid on any level, so we would not be making any request to draw those funds.
Okay, I guess my concern, just to clarify,
Yeah.
that the school department is not getting a bigger bite at the ARPA apple than currently exists in the planned expenditures of those
Correct.
funds.
We
It's a
swapped
swap.
them, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, if it's all right with you folks, I have a motion that I'd like to make. I move that the AFC recommend the expenditure of $1,263,000 from ARPA funds to replace as a matter of urgency the section of the Armstrong School roof as proposed by the Westborough School Committee.
Second.
There's a second. Okay, let's go to a vote. Beth?
Can we comment?
Oh, sorry, I do apologize, Walter. Didn't see the hand up. Please go right ahead.
I just wanted to speak in favor. I think the concept of moving this forward quickly and finding this funding source is a very good one. I think it's responsibly financially and also works really well. So I just applaud the rapid thought process and action by everyone involved in getting this to us so quickly.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any other comments? Okay, so let's go to a vote. Beth?
Blumberg, yes.
Melanie?
Ford, yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Tom?
yes.
Paul?
Eagle, yes.
Yes.
Leslie, yes. Beretti, yes. 800.
Thank you very
We're
much.
done. Thank you very much for your time.
And we will be going to select board tomorrow night to have a
Right.
further discussion, so
Okay.
thank you very much. Yeah, thank
and-
you,
And
thank you.
good luck tomorrow. I have a feeling it's going to be okay.
I'll believe it when we get the roof on. I feel like working this fast in this kind of market is just very, very stressful. So everybody stepping up has been really helpful, so thank you very much.
Right, I just
Thank
want
you.
to say, I think that the idea of doing this without having to go to town meeting is a good thing. Like, it just seems to be an appropriate way to take care of an emergency situation.
Yeah, I agree. Thank
Yeah.
you.
it does.
Creative solution making from the finance team.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks. Have a great evening.
See ya.
Okay, Finance Committee, just a couple of things. As far as future draft agendas are concerned, right now, I'm not aware of any intra-department transfers that are up for our consideration. So normally, those would come to us in May, and we would meet. The only one that I'm aware that's going to be coming, and probably we won't deal with it until June, is the snow and ice request for a transfer. It's probably going to be in the area of 200,000. And we want to wait until June to deal with that one, just in case there are any other emergencies that might arise that are waiting or in need of some of our reserve funds. But other than that, if we have anything that does come up, we'll do it as a totally remote meeting. So if that's okay with you folks. And it'll be, as soon as I get the request, I will give whatever background information is necessary, call a remote meeting, and we can probably do it very quickly. I'll try to keep it to a Monday or a Thursday night so we stay with our schedule. And then other than that, I have no plans to call a meeting of the committee until we're ready to start moving into the fall special town meeting cycle. So we may be looking at late July or August at this stage, but I'll let you know.
Okay.
Enjoy the time off.
Is there any word on replacement people?
John is working on it, I'm working on it, Walter is working on it. If you have a recommendation, please do get in touch with John or any one of the three of us, and we can move that along. We are gonna lose Hank, and Paul, I don't know what your status is. I'm imagining that you had said you wanted to kind of wrap things up by the end of your term this year?
Yeah, I'm a lame duck, while John seeks, a replacement.
Okay, fine. And Melanie, anything on your side of things?
Anyone who wants to step up can have it.
Okay. But that's a I like that attitude. Okay. Anyway,
You need to
thank
sell
you
it
all.
better than that.
What's that?
You need to sell it better than that.
Yeah.
It's a highly
You know what? I'm
sought
going to
after
polish my
position.
pitch and I'm going to get back to you, Walter.
Hey, Walter, are you running that fishing tournament this weekend?
No, I don't run
Okay.
it. Our club is running it, but yeah, not me
All right.
personally.
Just want to make sure the funds that we allocated at town meeting get expended properly or
Oh,
appropriately.
well, we don't usually catch many of those trout. I don't know. Catch a few.
All right. If there's nothing else,
Motion to adjourn?
Oh,
Thank you.
wait, minutes.
oh, thank you. Yes, the king of minutes has reminded us. Excellent, Walter. You've all had a copy of the minutes. You've all had a chance to review them. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of March 19th?
I don't remember that far back. Motion
Town
to,
meeting.
right, motion to approve the minutes of March 19th.
Is there a second?
Siddiqui.
Siddiqui, second. Any discussion?
I'm abstaining because although I was at the meeting, I missed the votes.
Sorry, Beth. Okay, so
What is
let's start with the vote.
Blumberg abstain.
Board, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Dolan, yes?
Eagle, yes.
Leslie, yes.
Siddiqui, yes.
Moretti, yes. 701.
Thank you.
Okay. Now can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Board second.
Or should
Any
we let Paul-
discussion? Okay, go to a vote. Beth?
Bloomberg, yes.
Ford, yes.
Bradley, yes.
Dolan, yes.
Eagle, yes?
Leslie, yes.
Ready, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you all. We
Thank
did
you,
it in
Westborough TV.
45 minutes.
51 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Nice
Excellent.
job. Thank you for all, for, by the way, for going through all that material. And I thought it was better that you looked at that.